Welcome to Football Scientific. I'm Aaron Sauter, the professor of football science. I'm a writer for footballanalysis1.com. I cover the NFL. You're checking my power rankings. The NFL going into week 13 today. I released that on footballanalysis1.com. Also, I saw we have some predictions on the website, and we have some matchups for key matchups for this week's games. So it's pretty cool. And you get to see my breakdown week 12. Also on the website. Along the way this weekend, we'll be having articles along the way about each game and highlights of each day. It's going to be, 4 crazy days of NFL football. Thursday, Thanksgiving Day. Friday, Black Friday. I'm moving my papers real quick. Then we got Sunday and Monday. So that's 4 out of 5 days of NFL football this week. A lot of people that I know that are, really avid football fans say that this Thanksgiving is like Christmas for football fans, NFL fans in particular. So I guess today is like Christmas Eve. So it's Thanksgiving Day Eve. And that's this is the Thanksgiving Day Eve preview. It's the Thanksgiving Day episode special or whatever, okay? And I'm joined by my guest host, Tyler the Tiger. Tyler the Tiger here, ready to go? Fired up, ready to have Thanksgiving and eat some food and fall asleep and maybe watch some football and then take a nap and then lick my paws and then watch some football and then take another nap. That's my plans for tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving in the United States. We already had Thanksgiving in Canada. Whatever. Okay, whatever. What do you think about that? I think I'm also going to eat and maybe take a nap and try to watch some football, but there's nothing else. I'll watch the film of the football afterwards to look for some things to write about, I guess. That's going to be my plan. Probably end up taking a nap too because of all the food. Food coma. Yep, food coma. So that'd be pretty cool. But it's going to be a great day of football. We got 3 games tomorrow, and then a very exciting game with the Bears and the Eagles on Friday, which should be pretty fun to watch. Let's get this started, Tyler Tiger. Our Thanksgiving Day special, Thanksgiving Day Eve special. Let's get it going. Let's break it down. Thanksgiving Day Eve special. Whoop whoop. Gobble 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 gobble. Well, okay. Well, that was a good turkey impersonation, Tyler. All right. So first, looking at the NFL, there's been a lot of movement of rosters going into Week 13, including Thanksgiving Day. So first, New Orleans Saints. Running back Alvin Kamara did not practice because of a knee injury. He's on my fantasy team. Looks like he may not be able to play this week. But it's early to tell. They don't play till Sunday. So you never know. He might be clear, or at least be doubtful or whatever. Detroit Lions. They have reinstated center Frank Ragnow, who at the beginning of the year, at the end of last year, whatever, he retired. He put his name on the retired list. They put him on the reserve retired list, but today was the deadline to bring him back, and he decided he wanted to be reinstated and help the Lions make a drive to the playoffs and beyond. So that might give them a boost. I noticed it was doubtful he'll play tomorrow. Like, he's not going to come off the street and play against the Packers. So he's probably not going to play tomorrow, but he'll probably play the next week. Okay. Houston Texans, like C.J. Stroud is a full participant in practice today, so he might be coming back for the Texans game this Sunday. That would probably give them a boost against the Colts, right in time to face the Colts for control of the NFC South. Not directly, because the Colts are still a 2-game lead, but game and a half lead. LA Rams, they signed tight end Nick Verrett to their active roster, and they designated wide receiver Tutu Atwell and cornerback Elijah something or other to their practice squad. And then they placed cornerback. I guess they activated him from the practice squad probably, and they placed cornerback Roger McCreary on the IR list. Okay. I don't think it's going to affect their play against Carolina. I don't believe so. Next, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Quarterback Baker Mayfield did not practice for the Buccaneers today. I didn't expect to see him. I mentioned that in my power rankings. I expect to see him play this week because of the AC joint sprain. He'll probably get Teddy Bridgewater, but I mean that's probably bad for Tampa. Teddy Bridgewater has not played in a little bit. On the bright side, running back Bucky Irving was a full participant. He's back. It seems like running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know Baker Mayfield's more important than Bucky Irving, but he's back. That'll help when you get him and Mayfield back at the same time. Denver Broncos signed a 3-year, $16.1 million extension for their kicker, Will Lutz. That gives him a $9 million guarantee and a $5.2 million signing bonus. He's been very good for them this year. They've won a lot of close games because of him. He is now one of the NFL's highest paid kickers. He's not the highest paid kicker. He's one of the highest paid kickers. Okay, that's better than being a lowest paid kicker. Baltimore Ravens running back Justice Hill will be out for Thursday night's game against the Bengals, which is good for the Bengals. Seattle Seahawks released cornerback Darion Kendrick, and today he was claimed by the LA Rams, so the Seahawks, get rid of him, and then he immediately gets picked up by the Rams, their division rival. Probably going to get some information from him. Get some scout team looks, San Francisco 49ers signed veteran linebacker Eric Kendricks to the practice squad. Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver Devontae Smith for the second day in a row did not practice. It seems like he may not play on Black Friday, but he might. You never know. Just because he didn't practice a few days doesn't mean he's not going to play in the game. It's a big game against the Bears, so he might still go out there. He probably won't be 100%. Seattle Seahawks signed running back Cam Akers to give their running game a boost. They added linebacker Patrick O'Connell and cornerback Shaquille Griffin to the roster, to the active roster, and they signed safety Quandre Diggs to the practice squad. I mentioned that yesterday. They signed Quandre Diggs. Okay, Cincinnati Bengals. Okay, the Bengals have confirmed Joe Burrow is going to be active this week on the roster. Is most likely to be the starter against the Ravens on tomorrow night. So that should make that a very exciting game for the Bengals fans, including me and Tyler. Isn't that right, Tyler? Woo! Joe Burrow's back! Joe Burrow's back! Joe Burrow's on my back! Joe Burrow's back! We have a chance to win! Let's beat the Ravens! Yes, let's beat the Ravens. And a little bit of the fact, Tyler, the Bengals still have a chance to make the playoffs if they can beat the Ravens and win every game the rest of the year, which seems highly unlikely, but they've done it before, and they could steal this division and make the playoffs. Not as a wild card team, but they win the division. They could do that, and beating the Ravens would be a big step towards winning the division. They need a lot of things to break their way for that to be realistic. Green Bay Packers running back Josh Jacobs is in. He's good to go against the Lions. So, he hit his knee or whatever. He didn't play last week. They brought in another guy who balled out, but Josh Jacobs is good for this week. They signed a wide receiver Will Shepard from the practice squad to their active roster. They elevated linebacker Jamin Johnson, and defensive back Jalen Simpson, and they released kicker Lucas Harvish. I believe played in the UFL. He got released. New York Giants quarterback Jackson Dart has been getting full practice as of today and may return Monday night. I mentioned in my Power Rankings article that I didn't think it would be a good idea. They should let Jameis Winston play because he's really, given the offense a boost. He throws some interceptions and stuff, but if you lose Jameis Winston against the New England Patriots this week, I don't think anyone cries about that. But if you lose Jackson Dart, that's what we got fired. Brian Dale will get fired for that. And I think Mike Kafka, if he's smart, he'll you can have Jackson Dart available. But I would start Jameis Winston. I think it gives him a better chance to beat the Patriots. And he's going to be exciting. It's going to be Monday Night Football. He's going to say some crazy stuff in pregame. And if he gets hurt, no one cares. That's mean, but no one's going to really pitch a fit. If Jackson Dart gets another concussion, it's going to be a big mess in New York. Dallas Cowboys wide receiver George Pickens is good to go versus the Chiefs. So he had that big catch in the Dallas game, and he's coming back for the Chiefs game. Buffalo Bills tight end Dalton Kincaid, wide receiver Curtis Samuel, linebacker Terrell Bernard. offensive tackle Deion Dixon, and offensive tackle Spencer Brown are all out for practice this week. It looks like they're not going to play. So you're going to have the Bills playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers pass rush without their starting tackles. That's a bad mix, man. They need to win that game. It's going to be hard without your starting tackles against the likes of the Steelers pass rushers. They're pretty good. New England Patriots left tackle Will Compton is on the IR. Will Campbell, sorry. So Will Campbell's on the IR. So they have no left tackle. It's going to be a backup. I saw some people say they're taking Drake May off their fantasy team because Will Campbell's going to be gone. And Abdul Carter's a great rusher for the Giants. It's a bad week to lose Will Campbell. If there's ever a good week. He's on the IR, so he's going to be gone for at least 4 weeks. This was per Mike Vrabel. In response, not really in response, but the Patriots did sign cornerback Miles Battle to their practice squad, to the active roster from their practice squad to shore up their defensive backfield. That doesn't do anything for the left tackle position. Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice is good to go versus Dallas tomorrow. Offensive guard Trey Smith and tight end Noah Gray are out though against the Cowboys tomorrow. Atlanta Falcons wide receiver Drake London is likely going to be out this week against the Jets. That's not been confirmed, but they won last week with him injured. So I think they'll be fine against the Jets. It's me a running game, man. Both teams are going to pound a rock. So you got to not turn the ball over if you're the Falcons. Kirk Cousins need to not turn the ball over. He's capable of that. Buffalo Bills signed wide receiver Brandon Cooks, as reported yesterday. But today they released wide receiver Elijah Moore, who they brought in to be a deep threat. But he just didn't live up to that. So I think Brandon Cooks is supposed to be the next deep threat for them. See if he can do it. He couldn't do it for the Saints. They released him from the practice squad. He never even got to the active roster. It's hard to say. It's happening there. Carolina Panthers cornerback Corey Thornton. Seemed like he broke his fibula. Okay, he broke his fibula on Monday. He's out. They signed cornerback Robert Rochelle from the Dallas Cowboys practice squad to take his place. So the Panthers are going to be down a cornerback. They did have 3 interceptions last week in San Francisco. Their offense couldn't put it in the end zone, though. That's more of an offensive problem than a defensive problem, though. So I think Panthers will look pretty decent against the Rams, but I think the Rams will win that game. All right, so with that in mind, that's all the transactions from today and injury reports. I got my Thursday Thanksgiving Day predictions and betting guide here, so let's go over that first. We have at 1 o'clock tomorrow, we have the Green Bay Packers at Detroit Lions. I checked the time, it's 1 o'clock, not 12:30. Commonly it's 12:30 on Thanksgiving Day, but this time it's 1 o'clock. Green Bay Packers at Detroit Lions, old school rivalry game. Both teams need to win because, Packers are 7-3-1. Lions are 7-4, and they're both behind the Bears, who are 8-3. If the Bears win this week against the Eagles, which is a stretch, but if they do, they take firm control over the division over one of these teams. One of these teams will be firmly in third place and be fighting for a wild card position, probably for like the 7th or 6th, 7th position, the last wild card position. So this is a huge game. This is a playoff game essentially for both these teams. Okay. So I believe Green Bay Packers at Detroit. If it was at Green Bay, you can expect the Green Bay Packers to win that. But I think Detroit's going to win at Ford Field. They don't always win on Thanksgiving, but they do often. I think they do often with Dan Campbell as their head coach. So I think they're going to have some pride in themselves on Thanksgiving Day, and they're going to win that game 27-24 at Ford Field. DraftKings says they're going to win by 3. I think I do have them winning by 3, but I think it's more likely the Packers are going to make this close. They want to win this game just as bad. So I'm going with the Packers and the points on my bet. And the over-under is 47.5. I think it's going to be a lot of scoring. It's going to go 51. So we're taking the over on that. Number 2, 4:30 p.m., Kansas City Chiefs and Dallas Cowboys. That's a pretty big game. Cowboys had a huge 24-point comeback against the Eagles last week. Chiefs upset the Colts in overtime. This should be a pretty good game, man. It should be a pretty awesome game. Usually there's a good lineup. Usually, there's not always a good lineup on Thanksgiving Day because the Lions and Cowboys sometimes stink. But right now, these are good games and good storylines. Dallas Cowboys hosting the Kansas City Chiefs as they do tradition on Thanksgiving Day in the late game. Dallas's defense has stepped way up. Kansas City still looks kind of iffy on offense, although their defense has also stepped up pretty good. I think the Cowboys have a lot of momentum going in this game, and I think the Chiefs are kind of up and down. So I'm predicting the Football Scientific that the Dallas Cowboys are going to win this game 28-24 at home. DraftKings says the Chiefs are going to win by 3, and it's a popular pick. But I don't believe so. I think the Cowboys win this game 28-24. So I'm putting my money on the Cowboys and the plus 3 points. The over-under 52.5. I think both defenses will keep this game under that. So it's going to go under. I got to go in 52, which is a half point under. Okay. Cincinnati Bengals at Baltimore Ravens. This is a must-win game for the Bengals. It's actually kind of a must-win game for the Ravens, too. The Ravens have finally overcome their horrible start to the season. They've won 5 games in a row. They're tied with the Pittsburgh Steelers at the top of the division. Okay, if the Steelers win this week and the Ravens lose, Steelers would pull back ahead and maybe end up winning this division. And they play a Buffalo team that doesn't have their offensive tackles. Doesn't look good. But Cincinnati Bengals, if they have any shred of playoff hopes, it's because Joe Burrow comes back and wins this game for them on Thanksgiving night, which they've beaten the Ravens on Thanksgiving night before. I think this is going to be a huge game. So I'm going with, I really want to go with the Bengals here, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I'm going with the Ravens 31-24. DraftKings says the Ravens will win by 7. I think it's about right, but I think the Bengals will make a strong push in this game, but I also think they'll give up an offensive touchdown, which will lose them the game. I think the Bengals, I'm taking the Bengals in the points, 7 points. I'm taking it over 52.5. I think it will be a lot of scoring. I would love to see the Bengals win this game. The only benefit to them losing is that Zach Taylor may be one step closer to being fired, which would be good for all Bengals fans. All right, so I got Baltimore winning that game. All right, so that's our NFL predictions for Thanksgiving Day. In the CFL, there's a lot of moves being made. Hamilton Tidecat wrote an article tonight about the Hamilton Ticats extending national wide receiver Tyler Tarnowski. He's not their best receiver, but he's solid, and he plays a lot of special teams, and he's a national receiver. So there's this thing called a ratio rule. You have to have so many Canadians on the field at a time, and he does a good job of letting them be flexible with who they can have on the field. Because even though he's a national player and he's a ratio rule guy, he is a solid player, and he had 11 catches, 119 yards this year. So it's not like he's a waste of a roster spot. They also decided to bring back Myron Mitchell, who was on their practice squad for about 4 weeks during the second half of the regular season, maybe 8 weeks or something. I think it's been September to November, maybe 8-ish weeks. He didn't play any games for Hamilton last year, never got off the practice squad roster. They had re-signed him. He spent some time with Winnipeg Blue Bombers in 2024. The reason we picked him up is because our GM, Tag Gavea, was making a bunch of moves to get Winnipeg players to Hamilton, and he fit the bill. He had previously played in the USFL for the Birmingham Stallions for 9 games. In 2023, he had 15 catches for 138 yards, 1 touchdown. He did spend some time in the Minnesota Vikings, 2021, 2022, and he was really a good player for the UAB Blazers. Alabama, Birmingham, and in 2 years he had 63 catches for 990 yards and 7 touchdowns. So he might be a decent receiver, or at least a special teams player for Hamilton. Either way, they have enough interest in him to reevaluate him and give him a shot. And that's a good idea. Okay, keep looking at receivers, especially in the CFL where you have so many receivers on the field at a time. Boom. Other signings in the CFL from today. Winnipeg Blue Bombers signed American quarterback Bryce Perkins. That was yesterday, I think. They signed American defensive back Javaris Davis. I saw it late yesterday after my episode. Yesterday was all about preparing to make these power rankings for the NFL. This time of year, NFL does take precedence in my football scientific world. Calgary Stampeders signed national defensive line Max von Muldorfer. That's because the CFL isn't playing right now. That's why. Not because the CFL is inferior to NFL. They're just not playing right now. So NFL makes more sense to cover more in depth. Saskatchewan Roughriders signed national defensive line Liam Haskins. Okay. And the UFL, Pittsburgh Steelers signed former DC Defenders wide receiver Cornell Powell to their practice squad, so he's getting a chance to spend some time with the Steelers, which is good. Good time for growth. Wide receiver Isaiah Winstead, who used to play for the Arlington Renegades, says he wants to play in the UFL again this year. This is for a different team. He spent some time with the BC Lions this year in the CFL. I don't think he played a lot for them, but he did spend some time with them. Maybe it's some time for growth, and he wants to play for a different team in the UFL. I guess come to the Orlando Storm, man. Okay. New Orleans Saints activated former Birmingham Stallions offensive lineman Barry Wesley, so he's getting a chance to play this week for Saints as they I think they understand their season's pretty much done. They're 2-9. They're not going to make the playoffs, so they're just trying to evaluate as many players as they can, which is a good idea. Boom. In the IFL, the last few days. I'm sorry. Oh, the hair got in my mouth. The Orlando Pirates of the IFL signed wide receiver Nywan Murray. And they signed quarterback Talia Tagovailoa. Remember, they signed him last year, and then he got picked up by the CFL, and then went to the ELF. I think he eventually came back to Massachusetts Pirates, but now he's with the Pirates again. So we'll see if he makes a run with them. Arizona Rattlers re-signed wide receiver Corey Reed Jr. This is his third time on the Rattlers roster in 3 years. If you know the roster rules in the IFL, that means this is his last year with the Rattlers. So he's trying to make one more run for an IFL National Championship for having to change teams. For veterans, it's a 3-year roster limit for one team. And then in the ELF, so the ELF, at the end of last season, once the Stuttgart Surge won the league, some of the better teams in the ELF were like, this league is poorly ran. We want to run our own league. They call it the EFA. And the bad teams of the ELF stayed because they don't know any better and they don't have any firm leadership, okay? So the EFA was going to go through and do some things the NFL does, like profit sharing and stuff like that, to make sure every team has a healthy roster and healthy resources and can take care of coaches and players. The ELF didn't have that, which is why you had teams like the Cologne Centurions, who seem to not ever have a chance to win a game because they're just not being taken care of. So the EFA teams left to do it right, in their eyes do it right. Or what they found out, it's way harder to do it right than they thought. So they have now agreed to rejoin with the ELF, so to get the EFA and ELF rejoining back into the ELF. And the ELF is saying, we'll do some of the things you wanted to do. So then they're going to do profit sharing and do stuff like that and try to take care of players more. Just because they understood, okay, well, EFA, those teams are mad, so maybe we should try and be cool about it. So they're back together. I don't know if I'm going to pay attention to them that much. It's kind of silly what you're doing here, okay? Kind of like the UFL, XFL, and USFL. I thought that was going to be a cool idea, but it kind of wasn't last year with all the union plots and San Antonio Brahmas being cheated out of their chance to win another or go to another UFL championship game. Is all lame. I really didn't like that. This is why I quit covering the UFL near the end of the season. It's got tiring to see my team get totally disrespected. But this year I'm covering the Orlando Storm. They don't have any respect yet, so I guess it's kind of round one, so there's nothing to be mad about, you know. So we'll see if the UFL lets them actually compete. And the GMs are gone, which I think the GM, Mark Littlebridge, kind of went through and sabotaged the roster for the Brahmas, and that's why all the coaches quit. So I think without GMs, you'll have less sabotage and more even field. You see in the UFL, the weakness it has. Everyone talks about, spring football not being very good. But the real problem is it's not about good football. It's about, because people like the FCS football and stuff like that, it's not as good as the UFL. Okay, group is 5. Football is not as good as the UFL. Okay, but people like it more because there's parity. And you don't know who's going to win all the time. And it doesn't seem like it's scripted. And I think the UFL needs to have parity. Now, you're not going to have parity when you have teams carrying a roster full of players that won championship, like the Birmingham Stallions or the St. Louis Battlehawks, who've not won any championships. But, ideally, I think they were going to win a championship 2 years ago. DC Defenders stepped in this year and made them feel sad about themselves. But they're still the best market in the UFL, so they got that going for them. But I think that more parity is the answer. You don't want to know who's going to win. You don't go to a football game knowing who's going to win and have fun. Okay, it's like if you go watch a Division III team like Mount Union and they play Wabash. Okay, no offense to Wabash, but they're not Mount Union. Mount Union's going to win that game by a lot, maybe 50 points. Okay, so while Wabash is good against Wabash competition and Wabash can do some things, and they might compete with Mount Union, likely they're going to get beat by Mount Union. Now, the flaw in that plan is Alma Hope last year, I think, beat Mount Union. And Hope is probably along the lines of Wabash. So maybe that was a bad example. Let's say Franklin. Franklin College versus North Central. North Central's won the last couple national championships in Division III football. They play Franklin College. That's going to be a blowout. No one's going to have fun watching that game. If you're a North Central fan, it's going to be fun for a minute, but then when it's like 60-0, it's going to be lame. And if you're a Franklin College fan, it's going to be fun to watch the Grizzlies play North Central for about 2 minutes. And then when you realize, man, they're totally outmatched, it stops being fun. Okay, the fun of football is even matchups. That's the real fun of football. Coaching football, playing football, it's the even matchups. Okay, as a player, it was always fun to win a game by like 50 points or 80 points, whatever it might be. We did that sometimes. We also lost sometimes by 40-some points or whatever, Those games are boring. They're boring. You just get them over with. Good or bad, you just get them over with and try to get some kind of growth from it, try to get something out of the game. The games that are fun are the ones that are like a slugfest. Like one time we played this team in South Bend, not Notre Dame, semi-pro football, but the Elkhart Shamrock or whatever were supposed to be really good. When you were in New England, Adams County Patriots, and we came in, we beat that team 10-7, and they weren't expecting us to win that game. That was a grind of a game, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of good players on both sides, a lot of good plays, a lot of good hitting. For semi-pro football, that was a really good game, and it ended up being a 10-7 game. We played them again. They went like 14-11 or something. Once again, well-played game. A lot of fun. Okay. No one knew who was going to win that game. But it was fun. Okay. That's the exciting games. NFL's exciting football because for the most part, you can't tell who's going to win. CFL's exciting football because for the most part, you can't tell who's going to win. IFL football is fun because you don't know who's going to win. UFL football, you generally have an idea who's going to win just because of the rosters. And I think you can mix them up and make it more, more parity is good, and you'll have better matchups. I think the ELF is kind of like that. They're kind of predictable. So if they can do things to level out the playing field and get more parity, I think that's a key to survival as a professional football league. You need parity so your fans buy in and stay bought in and then are enjoying the product. You can't lose every game and have fans, and you can't win every game and keep your fans because they'll think they don't play anybody. So it goes both ways. Okay, I've coached teams that went 10-0, and everyone said, well, they never play anyone. That's why they're so good. And they'll lose in the playoffs. They'll lose in the national championship game. They'll lose ultimately somewhere down the road when they play a good team. And you don't want to be in that spot. So you want to play some good teams along the way, and you want to have a good parity. And the more parity it is, the more exciting it is to watch. Okay, and that's what you want to do. You want to draw fans in and keep them watching. And you do that by having great games that can go either way. And we're going to see that tomorrow in the NFL. These 3 games will probably be very exciting games and go either way. It's going to come down to turnovers and who can score in the red zone and stuff like that. I think it's fun to watch. And that's really good. Later in there, like Navy versus Memphis. I think that's going to be less entertaining. Maybe Memphis will probably win that game. Okay? And this is what I'm saying. Good football, you don't know who's going to win. You don't know. You may have an idea. You might say to yourself, well, the Chiefs are going to win because it's scripted. Is it scripted? No, probably not. Is the UFL scripted? It felt like it. It felt like the Brahmas were getting done wrong. And when all their coaches quit, why do you quit on your team mid-season? Well, if you know they're getting done wrong and you're supposed to be signing off on that, you don't want to sign off on that, you would quit. And that just all looked bad for the UFL at the same time. And I just, from a coaching perspective, I felt like, why would I quit a job mid-season? Because I'm not getting a fair chance to compete. And that's what I thought with Brahmas and UFL. And I think in the UFL is parity. Less of that will happen. At least less people will say, well, that's not a legit league. That's what you need to have for the UFL to be sustainable. At the end of the day, that's what they need. Mike Rapole, hope you heard that. If you didn't, whatever. But that's what you need to be sustainable. If you're a high school football team and you lose every game, no one shows up for the game unless they want to, support the band. If you win every game, people show up against a good team. They don't show up against a bad team because it'll be a blowout. Parity keeps fan engagement. And that's what you want to do in pro football is keep fan engagement. All right. I also want to do that in football scientific. So I went on a rant there, whatever. I can always talk about some, in-depth football stuff. But, if you look at all these videos by AI about, idiocracy of America and stuff like that, no one wants to see smart football talk. They want to see rants and raves and opinions, and I got that. I did that today. But, I have more substance than that. If anyone wants to hear some stuff, let me know. Read some articles. Got some good substance in my articles. I'm not just throwing AI crap out there. I'm doing some real stuff from a real point of view of someone who knows how this stuff works. At all levels. I'm confident I understand football at all levels. Okay, youth ball all the way up to the NFL. So a lot of my predictions are correct when I make these type things because we know how it works. Okay. All right, so that's Football Scientific. Make sure you check out footballanalysis1.com for some great articles and analysis, as the website says. UFLnewshub.com. Check it out for some UFL news. Hopefully it won't be rigged this year. And then CFLnewshub.com. Check out my Hamilton Tirecats articles. I wrote one tonight, so that should be fun. I wrote one yesterday, so it's been pretty fun to write about Tirecats. Even in now season, it's fun to write about Tirecats. I think their schedule is going to be released on December 9th, I heard. So that should be fun. That is Football Scientific for tonight. Make sure this is Thanksgiving Day Eve special. Boom. Make sure you like the video. Boop. You share the video. Boop. And you subscribe to the channel. Boop. And more subscribers we get. I watched a video about the algorithm of YouTube. And the more things you do to chat with me, the better off we'll all be. Okay, you'll get the truth of football, and I will get more exposure. I did see someone said I overrated the Green Bay Packers on my short for the NFC power rankings. I mentioned that the NFC is kind of messy, and I thought that was a good conversation. So I was glad to get some fan engagement. I'll engage with you if you want to. I'm just a normal football guy like yourself. Maybe less normal because I spent a lot of time breaking down football to its very bones as a professional and as a fan and as a writer. So that is Football Scientific for tonight. And we're now closing the Football Scientific portal for now.